It's a beautiful day in the Dreamiverse, so Cuthbert's heading out for a stroll. It's a hard life being a cube. But Connie can't resist a practical joke, so she's dreamt up a spooky surprise for Cuthbert. She's gonna need your help to pull off this hair-raising prank. With a little lighting and atmosphere, we can transform this scene. But let's do a bit of redecorating first. Go to the assembly menu and select the search button with X. I've prepared a little collection of eerie elements for you to use. Open up the collection with X. Start by stamping a moon in the sky. Then stamp as many gravestones, crows, and flaming skulls as you want. Just make sure you don't block the path. And don't stamp any spooky doors. We won't need one until later on. These spindly trees are made from paint strokes, which means they don't cast shadows. Delete them with the triangle button and replace them with the spooky tree in the collection. Once you're happy with the spook levels, move on to the next step, where I'll show you how to change the lighting in the scene. To make the sky look like it's nighttime, we can use a sun and sky gadget. Go to the assembly menu and select Gadgets. Take a look in the cameras and lighting section. Here's where you'll find the sun and sky gadget. Its icon is a sun and a cloud. Select it with X and then stamp one above the garden using R2 or X. We only need one, so unequip the gadget with circle once you've stamped it. Sun and sky looks quite different to most gadgets. It's round instead of square, and it also has these two gizmos attached to it. Unlike most gadgets, the sun and sky gizmos are always visible. The ball on top of the gadget represents the sky image that's projected around the scene. Grab it with R2 to move the sky image, or hold L2 to rotate it using the motion sensor function or the sticks. Look at how the sky changes. The smaller gizmo controls the sun brightness, position and size. Grab the sun gizmo with R2. The sun gets brighter the closer it is to the sky gizmo. You can also move the sun around the gadget to change its position in the sky. This also changes the direction of the sunlight. The sun is the main light source in the scene. You can resize the sun using the up and down directional buttons while hovering over the gizmo. Resizing the sun doesn't affect its brightness, it just makes it appear larger or smaller in the sky. Try out the gizmos and get a feel for how they change the sky. You can always undo any changes with the left directional button. Start the next step when you're ready to continue. Using gizmos lets us quickly experiment with different sun and sky settings. But for some deeper control, we can use the gadget's tweak menu. Hover over the gadget, hold L1, then press square to open its tweak menu. The sun and sky tweak menu has two pages, one for the sun and one for the sky. The first page is sun properties. It has all the settings we changed with the gizmo, as well as a few options that are only available in the tweak menu. Sun visible determines whether the sun can be seen in the sky, and cast shadows controls whether its light casts shadows. We're creating a night sky, so deselect sun visible. It's the button with the eye icon. Hiding the sun doesn't turn it off completely though. It'll still emit light in the scene, even when it's not visible, you just won't see it in the sky. You can change the colour of the sun using the colour picker. Hover over the colour picker and you'll see a ring around the edge and a triangle in the centre. Grab the ring with X and move the dial to change the colour. Grab the triangle in the middle to change the shade. A bluish purple should set the scene nicely. It's starting to feel a lot more like nighttime now. In the next step, I'll show you how to adjust the sky. If you've closed the sun and sky tweak menu, open it up again with L1 and square. The second page of the tweak menu, Sky Properties, contains all the options for editing the sky. Its icon is a cloud. Select it with X. The tweak menu gives you more options than the gizmo. The first slider picks an image for the sky. Cycle through them by pressing the up and down directional buttons. Choose one that fits the gloomy scene. Use the sky gizmo to rotate the sky image. Find a position you like. The sky is made of flecks. You'll know all about flecks if you've played the painting tutorial. You can pick a style for the sky using the Sky Fleck type slider. The next two sliders control sky brightness and saturation. If you turn the brightness down to 0, your sky will be pitch black. But if you make it a bit brighter, you'll still be able to see some of the sky's colour and detail. To change the colour of the sky, you can use the colour picker. It works just like the one we use to change the sun colour. Grab the outer ring with X to change the colour, then grab the triangle in the middle to change the shade. But if you've set the sky brightness or saturation to 0, you won't see any changes to the sky colour. Experiment with the tweak menu settings and create a spooky night sky. Then start the next step when you're ready to continue. When creating a dark scene, it can be tricky to see what's going on. You could end up completely lost in a scene. If you do find yourself stumbling around in the dark, there's a useful guide you can use, which will temporarily turn off all the moody lighting. Go to the Assembly menu, then select Guides with X. Look for Studio Lighting, then select it with X to turn it on. That's better, isn't it? Now we can see everything properly again. Now rarely turn off all the moody lighting. Go to the Assembly menu, then select Guides with X. Look for Studio Lighting, then select it with X to turn it on. That's better, isn't it? Now we can see everything properly again. Studio lighting fills the scene with a bright, ambient light. Any lighting, grading or fog will be disabled so you can see exactly where everything is and what it looks like. Deselect the studio lighting button to turn all your atmospheric gadgets back on. Studio lighting is only active in edit mode, so the scene will still be dark and spooky when we go into play mode. When you're ready to continue, go back to edit mode and start the next step. The sun and sky gadget isn't the only way to light a scene. You might have noticed that there's a light gadget in the scene. Light gadgets can be used to create more sophisticated lighting, or to illuminate specific areas or objects. If you can't see it properly, just check that you don't have studio lighting switched on. Grab the light with R2 to move it around. Or grab it with L2 and use the motion sensor function to rotate it. You can add more lights to the scene from the Assembly menu. Go to the Gadgets menu, then open Cameras and Lighting. Select the Light gadget with X and stamp one in your scene, then press circle to drop the gadget from your imp. If you select the light with X, you'll reveal its gizmo. This cone-shaped gizmo shows the angle and range of the light. Hover your imp over the edges of the cone and grab them with R2. Move your imp to widen the angle or extend the range of the light. You can grab the white dot at the end of the cone to change the range, angle and direction all at the same time. You can move and rotate the whole light independently of the gadget by grabbing the positional gizmo with R2 or L2. When lighting a scene, it's important to consider how the player will see it. If you pull back from the garden, you'll see that there's a camera gadget in the scene. Switch over to play mode to see how the scene looks through that camera. Having a defined viewing angle can help inform your lighting choices. So keep in mind the camera angle when you're setting up your lights. Try editing your lights using the gizmos to illuminate an area of your scene. Of course, the gizmos aren't the only way to edit lights. Like everything else, lights can also be tweaked. We'll take a look at that in the next step. So let's take a look at the light tweak menu. Hover your imp over a light in the scene, hold L1, then press square. Lights can either be spot or diffuse. Spotlights illuminate in a specific direction, whereas diffuse lights cast in all directions. Light gadgets are set to be spotlights by default. But you can easily change their type by selecting the diffuse button. For this scene, it's better if we stick to using spotlights though. Notice the spotlight has tweak sliders for beam range and beam angle. These sliders do the same thing as the gizmos we used in the last step, but they give you more precise control. The fade angle slider changes the softness of the spot. At 0%, the spot will have a sharp edge. As you increase the slider, the edge will become softer. Deselecting the Cast Shadows button will stop the light from casting shadows. A very useful feature, but not for our spooky garden, as shadows will add to the overall atmosphere. The last two sliders, Use Image and Image Blur, allow you to project an image with the light. Images can be used to break up the light and add texture, making it look like it's coming through clouds or trees. Hover over the Use Image slider and use the up and down directional buttons to cycle through the images. Find one that suits the scene. This one looks good. The Image Blur slider can soften the image for a more subtle effect. When you've finished tweaking the light, close the tweak menu using L1 and circle. Now you've set up one light, you can clone it and use it in other parts of the scene. Think about where light would naturally be coming from in the scene, the moon or the fires, for example. When you've finished lighting your scene, head back to edit mode for the next step, where I'll show you how to add fog. Now we're going to literally add some atmosphere to the scene using a fog gadget. Close any tweak menus you may have open and press circle to deselect everything in the scene. Open the assembly menu. Press square if it's closed. Select gadgets, then cameras and lighting. The fog gadget icon looks like a cloud. Select it with X. We'll use The fog is so thick I can barely see Connie. Let's see if we can improve its look in the tweak menu. Hold L1 then press square over the gadget. The fog's tweak menu has two pages, properties and zone size. The fog is... Now we're going to literally add some atmosphere to the scene using a fog gadget. Close any tweak menus you may have open and press circle to deselect everything in the scene. Open the assembly menu. Press square if it's closed. Select gadgets, then cameras and lighting. The fog gadget icon looks like a cloud. Select it with X. We'll use this gadget to create some low-lying mist in the garden. Stamp a fog gadget somewhere in the garden with R2 or X. How about around one of the gravestones? Once you've done that, press circle to drop the gadget from your imp. To edit the fog, we'll use its gizmos. Select the gadget with X to reveal them. The zone shows you the area that will be foggy. You can grab the zone with R2 to extend it. Look closely and you'll notice that the fog gadget actually has two zones. The outer zone is the fog's fall-off zone. To adjust the fall-off, you'll need to hold L1 before grabbing the edges of the zone. Have a go now. Hold L1, then grab the zone with R2 to edit the fall-off zone. In the fall-off zone, the fog becomes gradually less and less dense until it's completely dissipated. Extend it to make the fog fade away gradually, or pull it in to have a tight ball of fog instead. Above the gadget, you'll find a position or gizmo. Use it to move the zone independently of the gadget. In the next step, we'll tweak the fog to change its colour and density. The fog is so thick I can barely see Connie. Let's see if we can improve its look in the tweak menu. Hold L1, then press square over the gadget. The fog's tweak menu has 2 pages, Properties and Zone Size. On the Properties page, use the fog density slider to thin out the fog a little. There's also a colour picker if you want to change the colour of the fog. Adjusting the various noise sliders is another way of changing the fog's appearance. Increasing noise strength will vary the density of the fog, making it appear patchier. The noise scale makes the patches larger or smaller, and the noise speed slider adds movement to the fog for a billowing look. There's also a slider to add glow to the fog. Add just a tiny bit of glow to make the fog look like it's catching the light. Now let's look at what the Zone Size tab has to offer. Select it at the top of the tweak menu. You can use the sliders on this page to adjust the zone size and zone fall-off, just like you could with the zones themselves. You can also change the shape of the zone in the tweak menu. Change the zone's shape to cube, then use the sliders or the gizmos to create a layer of ground fog. Doesn't that look good? In the next step, we'll add some colour grading and effects. The garden is looking very spooky now. The finishing touches will be to add some grading and effects. Grade and effects changes the look of the whole scene. It's a bit like adding a photo filter. Let's take a look. Open the assembly menu. Press square if it's closed. In cameras and lighting, look for the grade and effects gadget. The icon is an instant photo with some sparkles on it. Select it with X, then stamp one anywhere in your scene. There are no gizmos for this gadget, so open its tweak menu to explore the settings. Grade and Effects is a powerful gadget with a handful of tweak menu pages. The first page, Light and Colour, has settings for brightness, contrast and saturation. Try using the sliders to refine the nighttime look of the scene. If the grass still looks a bit too green, we can fix that by easing off the saturation. Use the brightness and contrast settings to bring out the shadows. Ooh, I'm getting chills. Everything in Grade and Effects changes the look of the scene in some way. You'll be able to figure out what most things do just by experimenting with them. Take a look through the rest of the tweak menu to see the gadget's full potential. On the colour tinting page, you can individually tint the shadows, midtones and highlights of the scene. Screen effects add filmic touches like vignette, lens flare or grain. When it comes to grading and effects, there's no right or wrong answers. It's all about creating a look that suits your scene. Most of the time, less is more, but it can be fun to test the extremes too. Remember, you can always undo using the left directional button, and you can reset any tweak slider by hovering over it with your imp and pressing triangle. Or use the studio lighting guide to hide all the effects. To complete the tutorial, you'll need to stamp the spooky door in the scene. You can find it in the tutorial collection. Once you've placed the door, head into play mode. Walk Connie through the spooky door to see what Cuthbert thinks about the garden's new look. Once you've placed the door, head into play mode. Walk Connie through the spooky door to see what Cuthbert thinks about the garden's new look.